Hi, I'm Jilly G. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you a cereal treat, gluten-free of course. I don't really know what to call it. It's gone by many different names over the years. The original name that I knew it as was a sweet Chex Mix. You know, traditional Chex Mix made with Chex cereal. It's kind of a savory, spicy flavor, and this was kind of the sweeter version of that. So sweet Chex Mix is always what I've called it. That way you knew what you were talking about if you were describing it to somebody else. But I've also heard it called Christmas Crack, which is really interesting because there are so many recipes out there that it's called Christmas Crack. So I didn't want to call it that. But I have changed the recipe, of course, to be made without sugar. But I've also changed the recipe to not be made with Chex. So it's not really even a sweet Chex Mix. So I call it my sweet cereal Christmas treat. I don't know. I haven't quite decided on a name yet. But you don't have to just make this at Christmas time. This was one of my favorite things. I do like candy and I do like cookies, but something about this cereal mix was always delicious to me. And I think one of the biggest reasons is because it was crunchy and sweet and it had coconut. And so I do have some unsweetened shredded coconut here. I've got 2 cups of chopped toasted almonds. Or I should say I toasted them first and then I chopped them and then I measured 2 cups. I always wonder about that when I give you the equivalents of nuts. Do you measure first or chop first and then measure? So this is chopped and then measured. 2 cups of toasted almonds. And then I have a 12-ounce bag of Cheerios. And this is unsweetened, just plain old, no flavor Cheerios. And then this is a gluten-free cornflake that is also not really any flavor. It's not sugar-coated, it's not sweet or anything like that. And then another, oh, that was a 10-ounce bag, comes in a box. And then this one is also a 10-ounce bag, and this one is a slight honey flavor. And I really like this mix because it has cornflakes and little round puff balls, and then it looks like some crispy rice. So you get a really nice variety of different shapes and textures. The traditional recipe for this, it always did have coconut. It had rice Chex, corn Chex, and then golden grams. Golden grams are not gluten-free, and I know that you can get the rice and the corn Chex gluten-free, but I've changed over the years, and I kind of like this combination. But that doesn't mean my combination will change the next time I make this recipe. That's the beauty of this recipe. You could make this with any kind of cereal, any kind of nuts or no nuts. You don't have to put coconut. If you use sweetened coconut, it will make it a lot sweeter. You could also put some dried cranberries in here. You could put raisins if you want to. I won't do that, but you could. So really, any kind of nut, any kind of other kind of little fruit. It's so versatile. The basic recipe is kind of what I'm showing you today. And of course, I won't be using sugar. And the original recipe, it called for sugar and then white corn syrup. I just use honey, and then I also have a half a teaspoon of salt. I think the salty sweet is really delicious. And you might be wondering what is so festive about cereal around the holidays. Well, it isn't that so much, but it's one of my most requested Christmas treats. I usually only make it this time of year, and usually, as said here on my apron, Karma is in the kitchen. As I was saying, this recipe is one of my most requested. Anytime I give this away to friends or family or neighbors for Christmas, just as a little treat or, you know, something fun to have, a little snack, people always request it again the next year. So this is one of my most requested. Whether or not it has the traditional ingredients, it's still delicious. And it's super fast and easy, and you can make so much of it at one time. So I've got my cereal there, I've got my coconut, my almonds, and then in this saucepan right here, I've got 3 sticks of butter. And I'm just gonna turn this on, about medium high. I want that butter to get melted. And even though the traditional version uses white sugar and corn syrup, the honey does give it a slight honey flavor, but I don't mind, and it has the same texture as it would if I were to use sugar and corn syrup. So this is my version of this sweet Chex Mix cereal treat. In my large saucepan, I've got my 3 sticks of butter, and those are melting nicely. I'm going to add in my 1½ cups of honey. So to my butter and my honey, I'm going to add in a ½ teaspoon of salt. And sometimes it's helpful to break up the butter a little bit. Just helps it to melt faster. And I've just got that over medium heat. And then I've got my very large bowl. I always put it on a hot pad, or you could put it on a towel or something. That kind of helps so it doesn't slide all over the place when we go to stir everything together. So while I'm waiting for my honey and butter mixture to come up to a boil, I can mix everything in my large bowl. My almonds and my coconut. And then with a big spoon, we'll just stir this all together. It sounds like my honey and butter is boiling. I'm going to turn the heat down, not quite to medium low. And we want to boil this for about 5 minutes. So my honey, butter, and salt have boiled for about 5 minutes. So now we just very carefully stir and pour. And then once you've poured all of the hot honey butter liquid in, really stir it together a lot longer than you think, just to make sure everything is evenly coated. And stirring this really well, not only does it coat everything really good, but it also kind of helps to cool it off. And I've mentioned so many times before, if you don't have a bowl this big, you should get one. It really is so helpful in the kitchen. And that's all there is to it. You could pour this onto a cookie sheet and spread it out and let it cool off, but I usually just leave it in the bowl, and then it doesn't really stick together too much. It's not like a caramel corn or something like that. And because it is still warm, it's not as stuck together as it will be when it cools off. And it doesn't turn into a solid brick. It stays really kind of soft and chewy and crunchy and delicious. And I really like the different textures. It's all kind of the same color, but you can still see all of the different things that are in there. So let's give it a bite. It's cool enough to eat it. It's so good. All of the different textures. The sweetness, it is not super sweet at all. Just the right amount. And for all of this, it was just a ½ teaspoon of salt. And you notice, it just helps to cut the sweetness just a little bit. Although it isn't super sweet. And if you use sweetened coconut, it will be much sweeter. The only trouble I have with this recipe is I want to eat it all. And so I try to get it packaged up as quickly as possible. You don't want it to be super hot when you put it in a little treat bag or something like that. So for something like this, I usually package it in little treat bags that you can find at the dollar store. Those are usually pretty cheap. This is also the perfect little treat to put into, oh, maybe like a little round or square Christmas tin. You know, so the tins that have a lid. And whenever I use one of those, I will line it with parchment paper or plastic wrap or something like that, just so it doesn't get stuck to the inside of the tin. But you don't have to do that. Let me know what you think if you make this recipe. I think no matter what cereal that you decide to use, it will still be delicious. And again, make it your own. Add in some different nuts, add in some dried fruit. The possibilities are endless with something like this. But thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have any questions or comments, let me know, and I'll see you on the next one.